Hey guys, what's going on? Laying back for another Netflix review, and today I'm going to be talking about Spy Kids Armageddon. Spy Kids Armageddon is an American spy family comedy that tells the story of Tony and Patty, a pair of siblings who have no idea their parents are the greatest spies in the world. They are obsessed with technology and are excited to play a new video game called High Score. However, things take a turn when the kids unknowingly help a game developer in unleashing a computer virus in the game that gives them control of all technology in the world. When their parents find themselves in danger, the siblings must turn into spies themselves and save their parents and the world before it's too late. I have never seen a Spy Kids movie before, so I might not be the most reliable person to review this movie, but I thought it was alright. It's nothing more than an average family-friendly feature designed with kids in mind, although I doubt it'll appeal to longtime fans of the series. Tony and Patty were probably the weakest parts of the movie for me, which I hate to say because the actors do an okay job in their roles. It's just that they have zero personality between either of them. Even from what little I know of the original Spy Kids movies, the leads in those ones were way more charismatic than these two. Their brother-sister dynamic doesn't feel very fleshed out, and they don't have any distinguishing traits apart from Tony's obsession with video games. I don't know if it's because the actors are younger, or how their characters are written, but I never found myself caring all that much about their mission. I suppose part of the problem is that it takes a long time for the kids to even transition into being spies. Almost half the movie is spent with these two slowly going from being ordinary kids to sort of confident spies. So while it is nice to see the kids have fun in these roles once things kick off, it just takes too long for them to get interesting. Their parents are much more memorable by comparison, although still a bit bland overall. Zach Levi and Gina Rodriguez inject a lot more energy into their roles and feel more believable as spies trying to stop evil forces from taking over the world, not to mention having great chemistry as well. As far as being characters goes though, there's not much difference between them and the kids in terms of depth. The family dynamic between all of them is pretty shallow, especially since they don't share a lot of screen time together, and much of what is entertaining about these two is largely thanks to the talent of the two actors playing them. The plot for this movie doesn't have much to write home about. It's a standard MacGuffin plot that's pretty typical for spy movies, in which a device called the Armageddon code can control all tech, and the villains plan to use it for their own nefarious deeds. There's already a ton of movies like this out there. Even one I remember just last month called Heart of Stone has the exact same sort of premise. I suppose it is fine for kids as the movie is designed with that demographic in mind, and thus it makes sense for it to not be overly complex. It's just that it proceeds so predictably about everything. There were a few times where I'd just browse my phone or do something else in the background while the movie played, then I'd come back to watch it and felt like I hadn't missed anything. Now, to avoid ragging on the movie too much, I do like the overall spy vibe the movie conveys throughout the story. With how many movies he's made in this series, Robert Rodriguez clearly demonstrates that he has a good handle on how to make a kid-friendly spy flick. It's still basic in approach like everything else, but there is a certain charm to appreciate with how suspenseful its music is, and yet how light it feels in terms of tone. The production quality of the sets looks great, and there's a variety of locations that fit with the playful atmosphere, especially once it delves into the video game aspect more. This being said, I did take issue with how this aspect was pulled off. It's filled with unexplained logic like how the video game characters come to life, or how some tech still works despite the Armageddon code. The graphics look too realistic to be a video game, and there's some sort of anti-tech vibe I got from it that rubbed me the wrong way. The main villain, the King, played by Billy Magnuson, is a lot of fun to see hamming it up, and he helps expand on the game concept more, but in the end he's just as generic as everyone else. I know it's only a kids movie and not meant to be taken seriously, but as someone who's been a gamer my whole life, I expected a little more thought to be put into the gaming stuff. The action scenes do help distract from the mediocrity of the plot where they count. I was surprised by how many of them there were in the movie, and it's fun to see the parents duking it out in different brawl sequences, and the kids playing around with all kinds of gadgets to outwit the enemy. The special effects are a bit on the iffy side though. The explosions look odd, and it's fairly obvious how much green screen is being used throughout the movie, which honestly wouldn't be so bad if the character movements didn't look so choppy. It makes sense for the video game characters to look janky because they're from a game, and they're not meant to be like real people, but to see the humans move so shoddily is kind of weird. The other part of the entertainment value comes in the form of the comedy, which again appeals more to kids instead of adults, and mostly consists of lame slapstick and physical comedy, which takes up a good chunk of the kids' training. There was one funny line that made reference to the classic FPS game GoldenEye, but other than that, the humor didn't really resonate with me. Now, in complete fairness to this movie, most of how everything's presented in it is competent, and there's nothing outwardly cringeworthy or offensive about it. It's simply clear that this movie is designed with kids in mind, so while it doesn't appeal a whole lot to me personally, I can see others enjoying it. As I said before though, I doubt that longtime fans of the series will care that much about this movie, unless they saw it with their own kids. Other than maybe a few sly references here and there, there's no major connection between this entry and previous ones, which sort of makes sense as it's good to shake things up, but it's still disappointing that they couldn't at least feature Carmen and Junie for a scene or two. Overall, Spy Kids Armageddon is a mediocre family flick that does what it sets out to accomplish and not much else. If you enjoyed the Spy Kids series as a kid and are excited to watch a new entry with your own kid, or are simply looking for a spy movie for kids, you might enjoy checking this out. Again, I'm probably not the best person to review this movie, but in the end, I thought it was okay. Certainly not the end of the world like the IMDb score makes it out to be. Perhaps it would mean something more to me if I grew up with the series, but the way I see it, it's a harmless if ultimately forgettable spy flick that isn't made for me in mind. What did you think about this movie? Do you think it was a worthy entry to the series, or a disappointing one instead? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways guys, that's going to wrap up my review of Spy Kids Armageddon. Thanks for watching this review, I hope you enjoyed it, and as always stay tuned for the next part where next time I review the Australian romantic comedy Love is in the Air. Bye bye!